Well, let me tell you, there are worse things than death.
Yes?
There's such a thing as evil.
You must be familiar with my favorite poem by Yeats, The Second Coming. Black Irish, very moving. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. And everywhere the ceremony of innocence is lost. The best lack all conviction, and the worst are full of passionate intensity. But it ends so beautifully ominous. What rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me back there? Can you hear me in the back? Okay. So we gather again and again to reassure ourselves about who we are and how it is. Perhaps who we aren't and how it is. Because we get so caught in thinking we're somebody doing something, going somewhere, or there's something to do. I don't think I'm going to be giving the beginner's lecture tonight. I think I'll just let go, because I just looked at you all as you came in, and you're me, and I'm just going to talk to myself. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just listen with your heart. It's okay. The words are completely confusing. Just assume I'm totally insane. I guess we haven't evolved to the point where we really can spend a whole evening just being silent together as a lecture. It's interesting that in the silence is really the answer to the mystery. The words just keep your minds quiet, our minds quiet, so that our hearts can hear each other. Because we're really here to acknowledge and honor our hearts. Not necessarily our emotional, romantic heart, not necessarily our anatomical heart, but the sin, the heart-mind. You and I were so well trained, we were so well socialized to be somebody. Our parents told us who we were. Our schools told us who we were. The culture told us who we were. If you just ask the question, who am I? Every answer you give is really a lie. Because it's a concept. It's a limiting condition. It's a prison. I'm Richard. I'm a man. I'm 55 years old. I'm an Aries. I'm a seeker after truth. I'm a lusty, greedy, doubting, agitated person. I'm depressed. I'm happy. I'm overwhelmed by it all. I'm responsible. I'm laid back. I'm confused. I'm hurt. I'm suffering. I'm out for fun. I am the Spirit. I'm God. I am the one. I am. Every one of them is relatively real. It's sort of real. But it isn't all real. And who you are is at least all of those. Do you ever notice how many eyes there are each day for you? There's the eye that wakes up. There's the eye that needs to go to the bathroom. There's the hungry eye. There's all the different eyes you go through each day. Thousands and thousands of little images of yourself. And one hardly knows another. I can be walking down the street so holy, so connected to the Spirit, and I see somebody that arouses my prurient interest, it's called. And suddenly I am Mr. Horny. And my whole mind has dropped. And all my love of us has turned into object. And under those conditions, I'll use anything. Wouldn't you like to come up and see my holy pictures? I'm Ram Dass. Let me help you. And who I was a moment ago is horrified by this person. This person would screw that one at the wall to get what it wants. We are all thousands of these beings. And they're a loose confederation that we call our ego. And they all sort of are organized around a structure. You say, that's me. That's me in all my many facets. It's an inner joke. We learned all these self-images. They're concepts we have about ourselves. And they are so fascinating to us, and they are so efficient for getting us through the world, this plane, that we don't hear the whisper of the other parts of our being. They kind of get lost in the shuffle of efficiency, of keeping it together on this plane. And everybody gets really grounded. They all know their zip codes, they have a job, they get their act together, they get their laundry done, the oil changed, pay your taxes, you keep it together. have you ever noticed that even when you're doing it extremely well, you feel a little trapped? You feel a little bit like you're being had by the universe. It's interesting, people work to realize the fantasies of the culture. If you get educated, get a degree, get a good job, have a family, get a home, get insurance, have a car that works, you get it all, you're going to be happy. But have you noticed how you get sucked into this is great, but if only it's like this hot tub, there's a squeal in the sound system. This hot tub is magnificent, but wouldn't it be better with some perfume oil in it? Let's have some incense. Wine would be great in the tub. Music would add. And you just keep adding one thing after a partner. Now we're getting closer. And you have moments when you say, this is it, this is enough. I've got it. And then it goes through your hands like slish. And a moment later, well, what do we do now? So it's, let's go to dinner. Wow, that's good. Let's get an ice cream cone. You're eating the ice cream cone. Want to go to the movies? You go to the movies. Let's get a piece of pizza. Let's get that late television show. Let's make love. I'm exhausted, let's go to sleep. And you start all over again the next day. And it's always that, have you ever noticed it? I mean, am I alone in this? It's that constant, like, the mind is always living just, if only, as soon as, if, then. And how often do you just sit here and say, this is enough? I mean, you even may come here tonight to try to collect wisdom. Everything you need to know, you already know. I don't know anything you don't know. I just say it well. You'll notice I'll say something and you go like that. Well, how did you know? Either you knew or you didn't know. If you know, you go like that. You knew what you need to come here for. So the model in your head that you're collecting something is keeping you from being here. Because you're someone going somewhere. And I hate to tell you, but there's nowhere to go. This is it. This is it. If this isn't it, there isn't any. Everything you did in your entire life was preparation for this moment. This is it. See? You say, I can't afford to stop. I mean, I have commitments, I have responsibilities, I have contracts, I have a job, that doesn't matter, you can do all that. You can either do it from thinking you're going somewhere, or having arrived, and then you do what you do. I have nowhere to go. And then this just happens. It's interesting, like your heart is beating. You're not making your heart beat. Beat, beat, damn it, beat. Gotta keep my eye on it. Beat, watch it, beat, beat. I'd like to talk to you, but I gotta keep it beating. Beat, beat, beat. Make sure my intestines are working. Keep moving the stuff down, through. Beat, move, beat. Better breathe. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in. You see, that's all going on. And you're listening to me. You don't spend hardly any time doing that. Many of you drive cars. And you can be sitting, driving a huge metal monster, at precipitous speeds while listening to the radio, thinking about where you're going, perhaps making love, looking out the rear window for a policeman, smoking whatever you smoke. It all can be happening, and you're just driving along, and you're not busy driving at all. This tremendously complex thing you're doing with centrifugal and centripetal forces and rates of acceleration. I mean, it's a physics problem that would cover pages. You're not even thinking about it. It's all in what's called base brain. It's interesting when all life gets that way. What do you do? What do we do with the rest of the time? It's even further out than that because there's no time. Everything of you that's in time is all passing show. It's all corrupting and falling apart anyway. Christ said, lay not up your treasures where moth and rust doth corrupt. That includes your body and your personality and your friends and your loved ones. Everything's changing, everything's dissolving, it's all going. It could make you nervous. If you identified with it, if you think you are a form of any kind, even a thought, unfortunately, it's all going to change. I mean, you are at this moment dying. You may not have realized it, but everybody in here is decaying. It's built into the system. You can eat as much wheatgrass as you want, and you will still decay and die. Just like the trees drop their leaves, it's built into the system. If you identify with your Volvo, sooner or later, even a Volvo, oh no, not a Volvo, even a Volvo, it will go. It can't go. It's my Volvo. It's my body. This is your life. It's my life. It's going. You remember the poem Ozymandias? Somebody's walking out in the desert and they see a stone sticking out of the sand. And there's an inscription on the stone and they decipher it and it says, I am Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing more remains. That's it. That's it. If you are busy thinking you are somebody going somewhere, doing something that's going to amount to something, suffering. It's as simple as that. Buddha pointed out in his second noble truth, the cause of suffering is the clinging of mind. If your mind clings to anything, that clinginess, you are clinging to something and you're trying to hold it, and it's changing right out from under you. You get what you want, you try to hold on to it. You have what you don't want, you try to get rid of it. The clinging, the attachment, the aversions, all of them create the suffering. I used to try to figure out who I was. And then I realized that that question led me back into the void. That every answer I gave wasn't really the truth. It's as if who we know ourselves to be is like the tip of an iceberg. And there's this vast quality of our being beneath it. As you touch that part of you that is not knowable by your intellect, it it is not knowable as an object, because it's subject. It's I am. It's is. It's ah. Ram Tirtha, a beautiful poet, speaks of it. He says, I am without form, without limit. I am beyond space, beyond time. I am in everything. Everything is in me. I am the bliss of the universe. Everywhere I am. Just for a moment, imagine that that's true. And you can use the thing I work with, this little channel selector. See, and you look at me and you see 55-year-old, well-preserved, rather nice-looking gentleman. Flip, you see a pleasant seeker after truth in their teaching role. On the second plane, you see everybody's socio-psycho dynamics. There's a mother, there's a professor, there's a student, there's a manic depressive, there's a depressed person, there's a hopeful person. That's the plane when you're in therapy, that's the real one. Those two planes of reality are where 99% of the world's population live almost all the time. When my father used to say to me during the 60s, Richard, come down to reality, he meant that. Get a job, economics, physical, psychological realm. Flip it again. I look out in the audience, or you look up here, you see an Aries. I see a Sagittarius, a Leo. Another matrix of individual differences. These are all relatively real. I can tell you are different from you on the physical plane. You're a man, you're a woman. I can tell you are different from you on the psychosocial plane, your roles, your social identity. I can tell the difference between you and your astral planes when your sun is rising, your moon, etc. But now flip it once more, and when I look at you, or I look at you, or I look at you, or you look at me, if you look into my eyes, what you see is another being just like you, except that I'm packaged differently. That's why the Christians talk about the eyes being the windows of the soul to the soul. It's as if you meet an awareness, an entity, that just happens to be traveling in this particular spacesuit on this planet at this moment. See, when you came here, you got all suited up for the trip. It includes your body and your personality. That's your suit. It isn't who you are. It's your suit you're wearing. It's part of who you are, but it's not all of it. Are you in there? I'm in here. How did you get into that one? You have this extraordinary feeling like you're meeting another being just like you, but who's in an entirely different universe because of their packaging. Because how people see them, how they see others through their eyes, through their habits of thought, all of that stuff, which is the packaging, And they think they're the package. And everybody goes around with these huge mind nets. They walk down the street, this is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am. And we enter into conspiracies. I'll make believe you are who you think you are, if you'll make believe I am who I think I am. And we don't want to upset the apple cart. Nobody asks for truth, we just ask for security. And we are constantly picking up cues as to who everybody thinks they are, and we constantly occurring each other. Oh, if you turn the dial once more, and we look at each other, I'm looking at myself, looking at myself, looking at myself. Because there's only one of us in drag. We just appear to be many. This is the play of the one. This is God as creativity. You are the creation. Who you think you are is the creation. Who you really are is the creator. And you have a choice whether to identify with being the creator or the creation. As long as you identify with the creation, you're being had. You're just an unfolding set of laws. No big deal. I have free will. Forget it. You don't have any free will. Who you think you are doesn't have any free will. Who you really are has all the free will in the universe. You are free. You're the creator. To accept the fact you created yourself, not you, your personality didn't create it. That's a creation. Is this too heavy, or can you hear what I'm talking about? Anybody here? It's okay? I can get... I can't. I have this spooky friend. His name is Emmanuel. He doesn't have a body. He speaks through a woman named Pat Rodriguez. I have learned over the years that everybody that doesn't have a body isn't wise. Just because we don't have body, we can't not have bodies. We get a feeling that anybody that doesn't have a body must know. But there are a lot of well-meaning slobs on this level who die and they want to do good, see? But they don't know any more than they knew before because it's just continuity of awareness. So they say, buy United States Steel, and they lost in the stock market on Earth, and they'll lose in heaven. You know, everybody says, the voice came to me, I had a vision, buy United States Steel, and they lose their shirts. If you were frightened of the apocalypse on Earth, you'll probably be on a plane where you're frightened of it in heaven. Watch out, the world's coming to an end. I heard the world's coming to an end. Well, Emmanuel is very light and playful. I mean, you got to trust non-embodied beings, disembodied beings with your heart. You can't know them with your mind, because your mind says, what the hell, there's no such thing as a disembodied being. Pat Rodriguez is just schizophrenic. She doesn't even know she's talking to herself. Poor thing. But see, I don't care whether it's her schizophrenia or it's somebody else called Emmanuel, because I just want the truth. I want the stuff. And I'll decide with my heart whether it's valid. I don't care where it comes from. But Emmanuel is so light. I mean, when I said to him, Emmanuel, I'm in the dying business. I work with people that are dying. What should I tell people? He said, Ram Dass, tell them that it's absolutely safe. Can you hear that? He said, death is like taking off a tight shoe. Who wouldn't trust somebody like that? And he says to me, you have your choice, Ram Dass, of being the victim or being the creator. As long as you identify with who you think you are, with the form, with the dance, with the unfolding of forms, you are part of the lawful nature of karma, the Tao, yin and yang, positive and negative, dark and light, good and evil. You're part of all the world of dualism. He said that what you took birth for, to get lost in that and then to awaken. That's part of the creative act of the one. And by the way, the one is only a concept of one when you're looking at it from two. From within one, it's zero. There's no one. Where did one come from? Because the one has no manifestation. It's just immanent, or it's unmanifest, or it's... And then it comes into form to play. This is all play. Remember Hermann Hesse's Journey to the East, I think. And Leo, the servant, who turns out to be the wise man, meets H.H. many years later, Henry Haller. And Henry Haller's a bitter old man because he left the Journey to the East. And he says to Leo, you don't mean to say life's just a game? That all this is just play? Leo says, that's exactly what I mean. An exquisitely beautiful game. Not game, play, irrelevant, haha. But a game, a beautiful set of the unfolding of law. When you play Monopoly, you don't think you're the iron or the thimble. See, but when you play life, you think you're the bodies. It's very bizarre. I'm moving down the street. I'm moving from Boardwalk to Baltic Avenue. I said to Emmanuel, what's my work on earth, Emmanuel? What am I doing here? Because see, I gotta tell you that ever since the 60s when Tim Leary turned me on, that Irish rascal, and he showed me that I wasn't who I thought I was, rather dramatically. Because I had spent so many years being neurotically miserable, being who I thought I was, as a Jewish upwardly mobile achiever, with all my sexual mashugana business. And analysis hadn't helped. And I had depressions. So that this plane, these physical, psychological planes weren't exactly they weren't a bundle of fun for me. And so once I tasted that I wasn't that stuff, and I experienced this feeling of I'm home, it's okay, I'm free. I am. I got catapulted out of who I thought I was. And I began to understand what the meaning of getting high was. I had gotten high. And boy, did I want to stay high. But as some of you may have noticed, where there is high, there is low. And you go up and you come down. A little like a yo-yo. And it took me a long time, years, to realize that the game wasn't to get high, the game was to become free. I kept wondering what brought me down all the time. I finally knew how to get high, that wasn't a question. I think everybody figured out how to get high. A lot of people didn't do it with chemicals, they could do it with sex, with surfing, with skiing, with running, once you knew that it was possible and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones told you that it was high. I mean, you didn't listen to the mystics, but these were the current mystics, Bob Dylan. Then suddenly you saw it everywhere. It had been happening all the time, but you treated it like you were insane before. My God, I was out of my mind. Hopefully. There's an interesting line in the mystic literature that says, there is nowhere to stand. There's nowhere to stand. See, at first you stand in what you learned yourself to be, and you look up at heaven, and these cathedrals are all designed so you can look up to God, look up to the Spirit. And then you transform yourself in one way or another so that you go from here to there, and then you're there looking down on here. Yes. So that's how it all is. I mean, there are planes here where you look out and all you see is the perfection of the unfolding of the law. That's all you see. And it absolutely, it's awe-full. It's full of awe. You are filled with awe by the incredible, I mean, you know it in little ways. I mean, you know it in psychology, or well, that doesn't have very much law, but we know, yeah, it all has law, but we don't know it. But you know it in physics, genetics, astronomy, the way the planets move. You allow that the planets are all moving lawfully, but you don't think of yourself as part of that lawful structure. But then you see that everything that is in form is in law, and you look at it and you see it all. And at that moment you look out and you say, it's all unfolding perfectly. It's a strange place to be in. It's not human. It's a place you're looking at it from here, and you see it's all perfect. And if somebody falls down in front of you, you say, perfect. Karma. This is karma. It's a cold place. It's like a cold blue place. You're looking down. Then you come back down and you come into your human heart. And you look at the suffering around you. And it hurts so bad. I mean, there's suffering. And when you go to reach for that one, there's suffering. But what about that suffering? And what about that one? I mean, there are the obvious sufferings of starvation, of violence, of torture. There are the subtle sufferings of neurosis, the sufferings of yearnings that are unfulfilled. Everywhere you look at forms, you will see the quality that a form imprisons, and there is suffering. As a human, and your heart hurts so bad. You come up here and you say, it's all perfect. You come down here and you say, oh my God, it stinks. It's getting worse. We're doing ourselves in ecologically. We're living with a bomb over our heads. We're polluting the air, the water. There's more violence, there's more terrorism. There's more economic uncertainty, there's more discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots. It's getting worse. Go up, perfect. All unfolding just as it should be, including the suffering. If you stand in either one of those, you're standing somewhere. And there is nowhere to stand. That is relatively real, and so is that one. You are both the one, you are an awareness, you are an astral entity, you're a psychological entity, you're a physical entity. You're a set of biochemical, electrical patterns. You are an illusion. That's all equally real. How do you live with all that? Do you do it sequentially? Now I'm my body. Now I'm spirit. I got high, I came down. That's what you do first. Up, down. I said to Emmanuel, what's my work on earth? Emmanuel said, you're in a school. Why don't you try taking the curriculum? Why don't you try being human? I'd never thought of that. I was so busy trying to get high. try to become spiritual and push my humanity away. And it began to dawn on me that freedom was going to come through form, not in spite of it. That incarnation isn't an error. That we are not in the wrong place at this moment. That where you are is exactly where you are supposed to be at this moment. You may think it's an error because it's too hard for you as a human being to handle what's happening. It's interesting because if you push away your humanity to get up there, you're standing on tiptoe. You are not balanced because you're pushing something away. It's a clinging of mind. If you get so immersed in your humanity that you forget your divinity, you're clinging of mind. And you end up being trapped in righteousness. That's a heavy one. That's called the golden chain. It's golden, but it's still a chain. Righteousness. Christ said, I am in the world, but not of the world. The way to freedom lies through form, not in spite of form. If you try being a renunciate, I mean, most of the people that are celibate are just horny celibates because they're pushing away something. You don't have to push yourself away to be free because you are. All of it is okay. You are it. The mind, see, you're all of it, and you decide, as part of your creative act, I'll go into separateness so that this is all creativity, so I can know myself through many forms. So you go in, and in order to go into form, there's got to be positive, negative, dark, light, all that stuff. Otherwise, there's no form. And there's resistance and darkness and all that stuff. That's the stuff you play with. And you go in and it's real. And then at some point in the journey, somewhere down the reincarnational road of illusion and dreams, you start to say, wow, it isn't like I thought it was. And you start to come up for air. And it's so tasty that you want to push away. And you come up and you come up, and then you feel you're being caught in something, and you look at what you're caught in, and you're caught in the rejection of one of the parts of your own creation. And finally you have to not only accept, but appreciate fully your incarnation. Appreciate it all. Depression, what do you know? Hello. There's depression. That's different than I'm depressed. Now the psychologist says, watch out, don't dissociate. Don't push it away. Oh, I'm beyond all this. That's phony. You're not beyond it, you're in it, and yet you're not in it. This is where the mind boggles because of the paradoxes of it all. Are you form or are you formless? Both. Are you free or are you lawful determinism? Both. Is it perfect or does it sting? Both. Is there something to do or nothing to do? Both. Can you stretch enough to be in form and not in form at the same time? All the methods, the spiritual methods, whether it's bhakti or gyan or dhyan or meditation or tantra or karma yoga or all the different forms of yoga, all the different forms of meditation, all the different techniques of Tai Chi, and all of these things are designed to extricate you from the attachments of mind, to let you come up for air to the other part of your being. Every method for it to work is a trap. You get trapped in the method. So you're meditating to quiet your mind and you become a meditator. Are you free? No, I'm not free, but I'm a meditator. And there are people who have been meditators for 40 years. And they got trapped by their method. Because if a method is worth its salt, it's self-destruct. This will self-destruct in 5 seconds. You use it and you come out the other end. And you're beyond method. Most of my audiences, for years I was saying, get high, let go, relax, come on up and dance, come on out and play. Hey, come on out and play. And they'd all have their noses pressed against the window. I can't, my mother said I can't, it's too late. And I'm out there bouncing my ball, come on out and play. And then I saw all these people out in La La Land. And I said, come on, get your act together, learn your zip code, get a job. Because you see, they were standing here, then they were standing there, and then they had to come back. Because you got to come back to complete the circle. From here, you see that it's all unfolding perfectly, and there's nothing to do. And as you look at that perfection includes your humanity and your yearnings and your feelings of heart, of compassion. That's all part of what you see as the perfection. And then you come back and you are comfortable being human because it's all right to be human. It's a very far out blend. You meet people constantly, and they are busy thinking they are who they are, and you have a moral responsibility not to awaken them. You try to, and they'll probably kill you anyway. It's like Plato's cave, where everybody was looking at the shadows on the walls of the cave, and that was, they'd been chained for so long in the cave that they assumed that was reality. And then one man escaped from the cave, and he went out into the sunshine, and he came back and he said, hey, everybody, this is all an illusion. This isn't the way it is. And they stoned him to death. You walk into a bank, you walk up to the teller, you look and you see the Divine Mother. If you start to get weird, she'll push the button. She's a teller, don't screw around. I am a teller. I know you, you're the Divine Mother in drag. You're just appearing to be a teller. I see through the veil. Young man, I've never been so insulted in my life. You learn to keep your own confidences. Because you look out and you just see all these souls going through all these journeys they're taking so seriously. They all think it's so real. I mean, will Ram Dass give a good lecture, or won't he? Will I achieve fame? Will I help people? How poignant he is. How poignant he is. I mean, I'm just a rent-a-Ram Dass, the way I see it. You wind me up and out comes Dharma. I'm just sitting here. I'm sitting inside just enjoying the evening. All this is happening. This is what's known as a happening. In fact, it's all a happening. You're either around for the enjoyment of that happening or you're busy happening. I can't enjoy it, I'm busy happening. People are afraid if they don't take themselves seriously, it'll all fall apart. The funny thing is that when you don't, it's like the statement, truth waits for eyes unclouded by longing. Or the other one, quietness is master of the deed. Or here's the best one, I think. Out of emptiness arises compassion. See, you think compassion comes out of that emotional and caring and pity and empathy and all that stuff. You're afraid to let it go for fear you won't be human. And then you start to empty your mind and empty your mind. A couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, I went to Rangoon, Burma for some meditation in a monastery. Because I realized that what I was trapped in was my own mind. And how do you get out of your own mind? You can't stop it. And each thought comes along and says, think me, I'm real. And if you try to extricate yourself from that one's got you. It's all like sticky stuff. And that's why in the West we started to think cogito ergo sum. You started to think you are your thoughts. But once you understand that isn't the way it is, then you start to look for disciplines to get you out of it. So I found a really simple, no-nonsense discipline. It was in Buddhism, and I'm a Jewish, Christian, Hindu, but I'll take anything that'll work. So I went to Burma. There were 800 Burmese and 5 of us Westerners. Some of you may know some of my fellow students, Joseph Goldstein and Sharon Salzberg. We'd start every morning at 3 a.m. and meditate until 11 p.m. You had a meal at 5 a.m., a meal at 11:30 a.m. All the rest of the time you took only water. The meditation consisted of following the rising and falling of the muscle in your abdomen that moves with each breath. Rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. 3 in the morning until 11 at night, 7 days a week, 4 hours of sleep, 2 meals. You look at nobody, you talk to nobody. Once a day, except once a day, you see your teacher for 5 minutes. You walk in and you say, I wish to report on my meditation. He looks up and he says, yes. And you say, I was following the rising and falling of my breath. I brought my awareness to the rising. I noted it as arising. I brought my awareness to the falling. I noted it as falling. The arising had the quality of buoyancy, of coolness. The falling had density, contraction. After about 2 minutes, I became aware of the sound of a bird. I noted it as listening. Did you notice the bird on a rising or a falling breath? I didn't notice. Please try to do better. Did you awaken this morning on a rising or a falling breath? I didn't notice. Be more alert. You're dismissed. day after day. And your mind, every time you start to follow your breath, like the center of a flower, your mind goes, whoop. I mean, I was able to have 7-hour sexual fantasies. Uninterrupted. There was nobody to talk to. And every now and then I'd think I'm supposed to be following my breath. Oh, screw that. I'd look holy, see, I'd sit there like this. And if anybody looked into my cell, they'd say, boy, isn't he? He's really doing it. But after a week or two, you run out of that too. I mean, you begin to see the slimy nature of your own mind. It's so incredible how devious you are. So you start to follow your breath, and then you say, well, I'm doing pretty good. I'm following my breath. See, there's a thought. It just took you. Yeah, right, I'm doing pretty good. By a few more weeks, and I'll be enlightened. Bring your awareness back to the rising and falling. And there's no way to hide, because one of the things you do when you report in is you say, in the last 24 hours, I have done sitting meditation for 11 hours and walking meditation for so many hours. And you can't lie because you took a vow of truth. So that you can't go into the bathroom and have, some free time. Because you got to make it up for it during sleeping hours. Because if you do less than the full thing, he just raises an eyebrow. And this is what you hired him for. I mean, he's not doing it to you. You're a volunteer. You went there. You may hate him, but that's just another thought. And finally, at first, the rising and falling is like some kind of prison. And your mind keeps wanting to go there and there and there. And then something flips and you realize the breath is who I am. All the rest of this stuff is just thoughts that are grabbing me. And you start to quiet into the breath until pretty soon all the thoughts are like little teeny bugs around the light. They're all out here at the periphery. You can see each one saying, think me, I'm real, think me. Your back hurts, you're hungry, you should be going home. That's, stuff like that. It's all around. And it doesn't matter because you're just rising, falling, rise. And then you're still, I am following, rising, I am following, falling. It's just another thought. Keep going in. The only thought you're left with is rising and falling. The only thing is the movement. Until that's all there is and you aren't. Because the whole set of balls you've been juggling of who I am has just lost its power to control you, and all there is the breath. And that is the beginning of the journey from that tradition's point of view. Because then your mind has become so concentrated, it becomes like a laser beam, and it starts to penetrate into the universe. And you start to see, because your awareness gets out of time, and you start to see things in a very different way. For example, you'll see something coming at you, which is just light and dark and whatever that you're seeing. And then you've experienced your mind going out and conceptualizing it and saying hand. See, at this moment, if I hold this up, you see hand. You almost can't be innocent enough to see what you saw as a baby before you learned the term hand. And you return to that place where you can see your mind grab the universe and keep making something out of it. And you come back to the pot where it's all possible again, because your mind hasn't narrowed all the possibilities. And the penetration goes deeper and deeper until you see the changing nature of everything. And you see that everything isn't solid, it's just a lot of changing stuff. And you directly experience it. Buddha said, don't just study it and think about it. Do it, experience it. Interesting thing happened. I was sitting in there, I had been there 2 months, and I was getting really subtle. As you can imagine. I mean, I no longer cared about anything. and a telegram arrived. All the first month, I was dreaming that a telegram would arrive and I could escape. By the second month, I didn't even want the telegram to come, and then it came. And it reported that my stepmother had cancer, and she was going to undergo surgery. My father is very old. My stepmother was considerably younger. She was taking care of my father. I got the telegram, and immediately I thought, I've got to go home. I took the telegram to my teacher. I showed it to him. He said, I would recommend you not go. He said, you're at a very subtle stage of your development now. If you really want to relieve the suffering of others, you have to relieve your own suffering first. Somebody that's caught in quicksand cannot free another. She'll be taken care of. If you go now to try to take care of her suffering out of your feelings you're having now, you will not be able to free her or anybody else, really. You're getting really close. Why don't you stay on and continue to work? You can hear what he's saying. I can hear it. I heard it perfectly, and I said to him, I've got to go home. And we both saw the poignancy of my predicament. That in addition to being a seeker after truth, I am also a Jewish middle-class boy with a family that needs him. It's my karma. And I couldn't deny it. And I went from sitting in the monastery in the cell for 17 hours a day, alone, for months. Within 3 days of flying, I was in the intensive care ward with doctors and nurses and machines and my mind was so quiet that a doctor would come in the room who thought he was a doctor. And I just see another awareness rising, falling. And very slowly, that intensive care ward, all the nurses and doctors started to get so soft. And they just started to hang around. They were so happy doing it. And I thought, whatever I'm bringing back, it's certainly catchy. See, I had had an experience, this is a funny one, I had had an experience many years before. It was my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. And my mother was already sick with cancer, and this was going to be perhaps their last anniversary. It was on January 1st, their wedding, they got married New Year's Day. The night before, Tim and I and Ralph Metzer and a group of us had a New Year's Eve gathering around the fire with very large doses of LSD. And I had timed it a little wrong because the family gathering was a brunch the next day. And there was no night, of course. We were all just making love by the fire. And in the morning, when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't there. I went to shave, and there was no face. And I thought, I think I'm in trouble. So I didn't want to scare myself, so I closed my eyes and I shaved like this, because I knew I'd scare myself. Then I got in the car to drive to my brother's, and the steering wheel kept turning into a snake, and all the people spoke foreign languages, you could tell by looking at their mouths, and I didn't know where I was. I didn't even know who my brother was, but I said, don't scare yourself, you know where you're going, just do it. So I got to my brother's house, and I went in the house, and there were my grandmother and my parents and my nieces and nephews. They all looked very simian. They all looked like monkeys. And my grandmother was up in a tree scratching herself, and all the different members of the family were just sort of sitting around looking all alike. They all looked exactly the same. And we sat down at brunch. And I was wearing sunglasses, see, and they all figured it was New Year's Eve the night before. You're hungover. Yes, I'm hungover. Don't talk too loud, you know, and I did the whole number. They didn't know I was drugged. And I don't know about other Jewish families, but in our family, love is expressed in a very bizarre way. There's this kind of cutting sarcasm. So I was sitting opposite my brother, and he looked over at me. I was a psychologist at Harvard. And he said, "Well, how's the nut business?" And I saw an arrow come out of his mouth and come across the table. And I psychically reached up, and I took the arrow, and I put it down next to my spoon. And I said to him, "Gee, Bill, your kids are looking beautiful these days. They're really growing wonderfully." I sent this heart out of my mouth, and it went across. And I saw a look of confusion on his face. And then he said, "Well, you certainly, all your wisdom, you don't seem to be growing any more hair." Another arrow came out of his mouth. I took the arrow, I put it down next to the other one. I said, "Bill, you and Helen are looking younger all the time. It's just incredible. You really look successful and wonderful. It's a good-looking suit." Heart going across. Confusion. That afternoon, I can't tell you what happened because, of course, I was drugged, but in the afternoon, all the family were sitting around in chairs, huddling, holding each other. The kids were on the laps. Everybody was quiet and content. We got out on the street. Nobody could get in their cars to go away. I thought, well, it all looks beautiful to me, but how would I know? Because you know how I am, what state I'm in. So I'll wait and listen. And the next day, there were all these people calling and saying, "Isn't our family beautiful? Wasn't that an extraordinary day? Wasn't that unusual?" And I realized that the minute I was open and felt safe enough to be loving in the presence of the world just the way it was all free to change. That I was no longer in a reactive reaction, in reacting to it. I was responding to it instead of reacting to it. Can you hear that one? Yes? No? Yeah. And the same in the intensive care ward. So I started to take care of my stepmother, take care of my father. Now, I could have had the model of, if it weren't for them, I'd be getting enlightened. A lot of people come up to me and say, if I didn't have children, I could meditate. They're saying exactly that. But I had learned my lesson, and I realized that it was through my karma that I would become free, not in spite of it. And so I started to take care of my stepmother and be with my father and help my father. And I watched the way in which my mind, just as I'm following the breath, getting my father up. He gets on the walker, walking into the bathroom. Lift, push, place. Lift, push, place. Toileting, wiping. I watched my mind. Each day that I'd wake him up and take him to the bathroom, I'd be on a different trip. I'd be on the young man serving his father trip. I'd be on the taking care of this old man trip. I'd be on the I'm going to help my father spiritually awaken trip. I'd be on the humor trip, full of jokes. Each day I watched my mind grab and become somebody doing something. But the quietness inside kept making me let go and let go and let go until there was just good morning, blood pressure, sitting up, walking, toileting, bathing, dressing. We were just right here. He was quiet. He was here all the time. He was letting me go through all my nonsense. He was just right here. And slowly I got here. Just in the moment, in the movement, brushing his bridge. Not thinking, I'm brushing his bridge. Not thinking, aren't I good to be brushing his bridge? And I began to see that it was a perfect upaya. It was a perfect spiritual practice. It was as good as breathing in and breathing out. Brushing bridge, back and forth, back. Now giving bridge back. And each thing became perfect in what it was. And I started to get so quiet and go into bliss and rapture. No, bliss, rapture. Brushing bridge, brushing bridge. It gets so clean and simple and present. And I was in ecstasy, and my brother Billy said to me, "Gee, Rich, it's really good of you to be taking care of Dad." Meaning he didn't want to do it. See, I milked it for what I could. I said, "Well, Bill, somebody's got to do it." You think I was going to tell him that I was in ecstasy? I mean, what kind of a fantasy is that? He's 50 years old, he's living at home taking care of his father. Poor guy. Poor guy. That was what was on the plate in front of me. People say, I want to help the suffering, so I'm going to go to India. And they leave a scene that is such a mess to go relieve suffering. Suffering's right in front of you. And as compassion arises out of emptiness, the quieter you get, the quieter I got in Nepal, the more it felt, I looked out and I felt the nature of the way it was all related, and I was much more in the space where your suffering is my suffering, because if my hand is on the fire, the other hand will pull it out. This hand doesn't say thank you, because it's all one being. It's interesting, we go up and we say we're all one, we're all sisters and brothers, and then we come down and say, but it's my television set. And you learn how to keep those together. As they say in Islam, trust in God, but tie your camel. Gandhi said, beautiful quote, I'll read it to you. He said, God demands nothing less than complete self-surrender as the price for the only freedom, real freedom, that is worth having. And when a person thus loses, I'll use herself, she immediately finds herself in the service of all that lives. It becomes her delight and recreation. She is a new person, never weary of spending herself in the service of God's creation. It's interesting that as you extricate yourself from identification with your own I want, I need my space, am I getting enough? What's in it for me? I'm growing old, all that stuff. And you're quiet. The whole universe is what you are part of. And then the suffering, you just move towards relieving it. You become an instrument of it. You're not even busy doing it anymore, because that's just another thought. It's as if you have turned into a compassionate heart, the compassionate heart of the Christ. Not the romantic heart, not the pitying heart, not the empathizing heart. The heart. Ask not for whom the bell tolls. You and I have a spontaneous generosity of heart. We have the entire source within us, and that source is safe, and it loves, and it reaches out, and you say, my heart goes out to you. The intellect, in the service of our separateness, says, watch out, don't give away the store to the heart. And your intellect is constantly holding you back. Your heart is constantly doing this. When you realize who you are, that you are free, that you're safe, what can anybody do to you? That's what Christ said. What can you do to me? Shame me, go ahead. Think you got me? Oh, you think it's my body? Go ahead, nail me up. You think you got me? That isn't who I am either. I mean, he made a statement that was very bizarre. It was very far out. He said, look, I am not my body and I'm not my personality and you can't get me. And you can see the meaning of that. The minute you bought what he did and said that's true, that that was a true act, the minute that opens your faith in the possibility that you aren't who you think you are immediately free from suffering. Because from then on, all the suffering becomes a clue to you of where you're holding, and it's a clue to help you with your work. See, when you want to get high, you want to stay away from suffering. You want to go into a cave and get high by yourself. People bring me down. I'm not going to New York, it brings me down. I hate cities, they bring me down. I can be high in the country. I can be high with you, but he brings me down. Casper Weinberger really brings me down. But as long as your high pushes away anything, you are not free, and you're frightened. Because the city will bring you down. Casper will get you. And then you get to the point where you realize that anything that brings you down is your problem. It's a clue to your work on yourself. When somebody is a complete stinker, if you get caught in their stinkerness, it's your problem. And instead of constantly saying, you know, I love you, but I'd love you better if you put your smelly socks in the hamper. That's like looking at oak trees and pine trees and saying, you're great, but it would be better, pine, if you were an oak. Funny, with humans, we're constantly judging each other. Finally, you understand that the stuff that turns you off in the world is your models in your head. And you can finally, somebody rips you off. Okay. You'll be better at tying your camel the next time. But if you get angry and judgmental of that person, their mind caught you. And you want to get to the point where they're all doing what they're doing. You allow people to incarnate the way they incarnate. You don't sit around judging them. You just appreciate them. And if something gets you, some suffering, like you get cancer or AIDS and you're suffering. I work with AIDS patients. Somebody's young, they're full of life, and suddenly they've got AIDS, and they're facing death and sickness and sores and pain and ugh. It's very seductive. It's hard not to get caught in the drama. How do we help another human being? By not reinforcing the drama. In order not to reinforce the drama, you can't be identified with your own drama. If I sit down with somebody with AIDS and I think I'm helping them, forget it. They're now somebody that needs to be helped. When actually, you here, I'm here. You have an interesting incarnation this time. It includes AIDS. And it's extraordinary that when your mind is quiet enough and you're present enough, somebody else can get loose from their suffering if they're ready. You have no moral right to take away their suffering. If the Jewish mother wants to sit in the dark, that's her choice. But you can become an environment so spacious that anybody can get free around you that's ready.
Just think what you're going to be missing. You won't have Nixon to kick around anymore. Guys, gentlemen, this is my last press conference. Thank you. Good day.